Hello. This is a quite low to the ground back bending sequence using a little yoga and a little Pilates, but designed to really help you relieve those postural tendencies that come from the way we live our lives, where we're forward of the body and hunched in for a lot of our daytime hours. So it should feel really good to counteract a whole bunch of sitting if you've been doing that in your day. I think of nursing mothers, laborers, anyone who is spending that time rounding forward and having that amount of spinal flexion that just lends itself to some compression through the spine and that sort of low back or mid back ache at the end of the day. So we'll start out really simply coming onto our bellies. And as you lower down onto the belly, set your forearms at about a yoga mat's distance apart, but you can do this without a mat and just be on your carpet, just going then wider than your shoulder distance. And then send the forearms a little further forward as well. I'm just going to hold this shape with some calm breathing. Closing the eyes down. For some people, this will feel like a relief to be in this shape. If things are quite tight, you can feel that it's challenging to hold into the low back. And particularly if that's you, I just encourage you to send some real softness through the back of the body with each exhalation. Now we're going to shuffle things just slightly by taking our left leg out to the side with the toes turning out. And as you bring that left leg out, we're going to bring our right forearm a little closer in. So things are just starting to tilt off to this side, seeing how that feels now through the back of the body. So that right elbow is now aligned to the right shoulder. And from here, some people will get this really easily. For some, it will be a little bit more of a challenge. We're going to try lifting up onto our left fingertips and then trying to sweep the back of the right arm under this gap between left fingertips and that left leg. We just hold this shape for a moment. Anytime we're working on back extension, we like to incorporate twisting and some spinal flexion as well for healthy balance of movement through the spine. And let's thread ourselves back through nice and gently, bringing now the left elbow to underneath the left shoulder, bringing that right leg out to the side, and we'll just set our right forearm a little wider set than that right shoulder. Kicking these balloons here. My daughter had a wee dance party in the yoga studio space earlier. A few deep breaths here. Expecting that there might be some differences between sides as we have a go at lifting up onto the right fingertips, making a wee teepee shape here. I'm trying to thread the back of that left shoulder through. And then we'll adjust our breathing to a Pilates style of breath. I know things are about to get warm, so I'm preparing. As we come onto a Sphinx posture with our forearms, elbows now both stacked directly underneath the shoulders, fingers spread wide. And on our inhalation breath, we'll have a soft belly down towards the ground, pubic bone soft against the ground as well. And then on your exhalation, we push the pubic bone down into the mat, pull the belly button to the back of the spine. Feel the rib cage glide down towards the hips and pull the chin in towards the chest. And then on your inhalation breath, we're going to pull the heart forward, try and draw the shoulders more firmly onto the back, and then align that neck. Exhalation breath, chin into the chest. Feeling the pubic bone anchor down as the belly button draws up, lifting the heart up to in between the shoulder blades. Feel this little squeeze here through the back of the legs as they hold you steady. One more time, inhale. Rippling it through a little bit like a snake. And we'll play more on that theme soon. Exhale, tucking under. Good, now let's lower it all the way down. And then coming from here to our arms set at cactus arms or the letter E, and rising up onto TP fingers. So let's anchor into all of our fingertips first and lift the elbows up towards the ceiling. And then from there, glide your shoulders down your back. And then try and lift gently up into our cobra posture. Holding here for a few breaths, and then we're going to work into the front of the shoulders with some dynamic movement. So on your next exhalation breath, we look over to the left and we try and drop the front of the right shoulder down. Inhalation breath coming through the center. Exhale, looking to the right and trying to drop the left shoulder down. We'll do that once more. Inhale, center. Exhale and drop. Inhale, center. Exhale and drop. Inhale back to center and exhale. Try and float down rib cage, heart, chin. And then we'll make a diamond shape with our hands. So our thumbs pressed together and our index fingers pressed together. You set this diamond on the mat beneath your face so that where the thumbs connect is where the space between your eyebrows comes down to reach. Back into a Pilates movement. On our exhalation breath, push the pubic bone down, anchored firmly to the mat, and then we rise away from the ground as high as we can take ourselves, keeping a little softness in those elbow joints. And then the inhalation breath brings us back down, trying to again stagger. So it's rib cage through to that space between the eyebrows, and the elbows come forward at the same time. Exhalation breath, anchor your pubic bone, pull your belly button to the back of your spine so you have a strong midsection supporting the back extension. Down we come. We'll do 3 more like this. Try and bring the neck into alignment along with each lift of the spine. 2 to go. And now we'll just adjust our style of back bending so that we're thinking a little bit more about how the shoulder blades can glide down towards the bottom for some stretching quite deeply into the shoulder blades there. We'll take our fingertips together and try and bring them high up the back. We take an inhalation breath here and then exhale. We're going to lift the chest and try and bring our hands to be in some form of interlace behind the back. Maybe completely interlaced, maybe it's just the thumbs. We're going to hold this one here. So this is a move that's in both Pilates in our classical series and in yoga where we call it Shalabhasana or locust pose. If you like, you can lift on up through the legs as well. And we breathe deeply here. It's a little bit more intense. The heat floods the back of the body. Let the next exhalation bring you back down to the mat. Push your palms into the mat, either side of your chest. You push the floor away and we're going to widen our knees, bring our big toes together, melt back into spinal flexion, into child's pose, forehead finding the mat. We're just going to do a little back bending in a lunge position. So we'll lift our hips back up from our heels, separate the big toes, and then plant our right foot forward between our hands. On our next inhalation breath, firm up the feet to the ground, pull in the inner thighs to the midline, lift the hands, lift the gaze. Back toe could be tucked under or flat. We're going to take our left hand now so that the thumb pushes into the low part of your back, and then lean back. Check that your left elbow isn't winging out. We're trying to pull it backwards as well and opening our chest up towards the ceiling. Another option here could be to take your hand to the back of your thigh, or perhaps eventually to the back of your heel. I'm going to breathe a few times here. And then we come back nice and gently, following the right hand with our gaze, pulling ourselves forward, and then taking our hips backwards, planting our fingertips to the ground, pulling the right toes towards us for half split and for some spinal flexion again. Try and extend the tip of the nose forward in space. And then we'll see if we can take this into a twisting shape. So we press into our left fingertips. We try and draw a bow and arrow with our right hand. Now you might just draw the elbow to the ceiling. You might feel more comfortable hands on the hip. Or you might be able to extend the arms long and find your balance. A few breaths here. We're going to come from here just to one quadricep stretch with a little back bend. So watch for this change. We're going to try and flick the left calf muscle out from underneath the left leg and then sit back onto our bottom. If this is completely out of reach for you, being in this shape, you might sit up on a stack of blankets or a yoga block if you have one. Or you could, alternatively, instead of being seated, choose to come here onto your side so that you can get your leg into a bit of a quadricep stretch. If you are in this shape, what ideally we are doing is bringing our thumbs to point forward, our fingertips to point back, and then lifting our chest up towards the ceiling. If that's feeling okay, maybe down onto your forearms for half hero's pose. And then walking yourself, if you've come onto the forearms, back to the fingertips, or walking the fingertips in. And we're going to try and press ourselves back up and then bring that right knee back and just take a little bit of a hip shuffle, whatever feels nice here, before coming to the other side. And the left foot makes its way forward between the hands. Find your balance, set your foundation, and inhale to rise, arms coming up. Now it's our right hand that's going to come around and perhaps nestle into the low back. And that might be just enough. We're trying to adjust the gaze to the ceiling, push the heart forward, drop the shoulder blades down towards the bottom. Maybe the hand can come to the back of the leg and you can lean a little further back, maybe into the heel. You will notice as you take these shapes, you feel vulnerable. You feel a little exposed. So try and watch what that thought process is. Give yourself words of encouragement. Take some deep breaths wherever we've landed here. And then the left hand leads your way back in. Wherever that right hand got to, it's going to come afterwards. And then taking the fingertips towards the ground, the hips are sinking backwards. The left leg is extending long, most of the bend out of that knee, toes pull to the shin bone. And the tip of the nose moves forward in space, and we hold our half split posture. Hands here, you could elevate them up on something if the ground feels too far away. I sometimes like to turn mine so that the fingertips face backwards and the thumbs forward. Use that as a bit of leverage to make my spine longer. Trying for this tricky balance, we press into the right fingertips and really try and get them in alignment here with your right shoulder. And then it might be that you can just pull the elbow towards the ceiling. You can see my body shaking already here. It is tough. Maybe the hand comes to the hip. Maybe we can extend that long line in a twist. Check that you're pulling your right hip crease forward and pushing your left hip crease backwards to establish more of a twist through the torso and better balance. And then letting that hand come gently down. Watch for this change. See if we can flick the shin bone on the right leg out and come to sit down. Happy click through the knee there. And if that wasn't plausible for you, we've got the going onto your side option. Maybe coming into then this seated back bend. Here the thumbs point forward, the fingers back, and we elevate the chest to the ceiling. So the biceps and the quadricep get a wee stretch here. If it's available in your body, you might be able to come down to your forearms and lean back a little. And from wherever we got to there, we're going to gently walk ourselves back to upright. See if we can send our body weight forward, lift it back up, knees back into alignment. Just a few rounds now of our cat and our cow. On our inhalation breath, the belly drops down, the gaze lifts, and I want you to focus on pulling the shoulder blades towards your bottom and your bottom towards your shoulder blades. And then the reverse of that on the exhalation, we're trying to pull our tailbone as far away from our shoulder blades as we can. We separate our shoulder blades and pull them up and away from the tailbone. Inhalation breath, the belly drops down. Let that ripple through your spine, the head being the last thing to move. Exhalation breath, again, try and ripple through the spine from the lowest part of the back into the highest. Try that one more time. Inhale, pelvis shifts backwards, belly drops down, shoulders pull towards the bottom, and the gaze comes forward. Exhale, pelvis shifts forward, the bottom's pulling away from those shoulder blades, it's rippling up the spine, chin into the chest. And then leveling the back out. One more exercise here as we lift ourselves up to standing on our knees. And we're going to sit back in towards the heels momentarily on an inhalation breath, and then exhale, try and tilt your pubic bone to the ceiling and lift yourself up. So it's a little bit of strength here through the quadriceps. Inhale, sit back, exhale, and come up. It's also just giving ourselves a little bit more length and strength through the front of the legs. Two more like that. Inhale, sit back, exhale, and bring it up, squeezing those butt cheeks together. Last one. Inhale, sit back. I'm just laughing at my cracking knees. And sitting back up. Finally, coming into our Camel posture, pretty challenging back bend. Take it at a level that suits you. We might glide our thumbs around to the midpoint of our low back, our sacral plate, just down here. Try and have a feel around for it. And then pull the elbows in towards one another. Again, glide the back of the shoulders down towards the bottom. So we're already starting that process. Then we want to really engage those quadriceps by pulling our pubic bone forward. Glide the shoulders further down the back again. Pull the pelvis forward again. Glide the shoulders further down the back. Then after all that set up, then release. Chin, chest. Options is both heels connected to the hands. And we come out slowly, simply bringing it forward into a spinal flexion, rabbit pose. Knees are hip distance apart. The chin keeps pulling further in towards the chest. It will feel quite intense after the back bending. Try and get the crown of the head to the ground and see if you can run your arms alongside your legs with the palms facing up. And finally, coming back to a seated posture, however that feels best for you to come into. We're just going to take our hands to the kneecaps and just do some circling around with our breath. So trying here for our inhalation breath to be the chest circling forward and our exhalation breath to be it coming back. Massaging into our hip creases. Letting it be like we're stirring a bowl on the inside. And then back the other way. Pressure from the palms helping to make this a movement that has some resistance to it so that we're building a stronger mobility. And coming back to stillness in the center. Maybe an inhalation breath to lift your hands, and then an exhale to draw them down and gather them at the heart. Well done. Thank you for practicing and for honoring your spine with some back bends. I hope that you see the benefit and return to this again. Namaste.